Okay. Hello, gardeners. Welcome back. It is recording. Good. 2 weeks ago, we looked at a sheet called What Can You Do with Seeds? And I showed some examples of the activities. We sorted, we created, we grew some, and we wrote a prediction for one. So I'm going to show you what we planted. Again, this was 2 weeks ago. We put some radish seeds in little pots with potting soil. And I did it twice because I had done a practice and then I did it for you. So I have 2 pots. And then I wrote a prediction. I thought that they would sprout in 10 days. I was wrong. It turns out they sprouted after only 3 days. So now they've been growing for a little while. They're nice and green. When I first saw them sprout, they were a very pale green color. They were only about this tall when I caught them. But it took some of the seeds only 3 days to sprout, and then some more came up on day 4 and day 5. But like I said, I didn't mind it being wrong. I learned something new, that they sprouted earlier than I predicted, and it made me come up with a question. I wanted to know what makes seeds sprout faster. Well, when we have a question about why or how something happens, it's good to set up an experiment. So on that same sheet from before, the last column has some kinds of experiments you can try. I'm going to show you the top one and the 4th one, and they can both help answer the question here of what makes seeds sprout faster. First, I wanted to plant some inside and some outside. I made some labels to tell them apart. So I was going to have some red tomato seeds inside and some red tomato seeds outside. And this is how I set it up. I'm going to move the camera down a little bit. These are what I planted inside. Trying not to spill water on my computer. And these are what I set up outside. Now you'll also notice that some things look the same, right? So now I'm going to introduce some vocabulary that will help you set up an experiment. Even if it doesn't look exactly like this one, you'll use your own materials that you have at home. We can set up an experiment. In a scientific experiment, we need an independent variable. That's the thing that we are going to change on purpose. So in this case, location is what's changing, inside versus outside. Then, because we want to try to answer a question, we need to choose our dependent variable. This is what changes you observe for results. Now, I could observe a lot of things. I could see how many seeds sprout. I could see which ones get taller, which ones are more green. But because I'm curious about how fast they go, my dependent variable is sprouting time, how long it takes to sprout. In an experiment, we also have controlled variables. These are what you keep the same on purpose. So we're going to play a really quick game. Looking at these 2 trays again. What is the same here and here? Spot the things that are the same. Yeah, so for this experiment, I used the same kinds of pots. I used the same kind of soil inside. I have about the same amount of soil. I also used the same amount of water. I admit I did not water them every day, but when I watered these ones, I also watered these ones for about 2 seconds in each pot. I just poured some water in. So I made sure that if these got water, these also got water, and that wasn't going to be why some sprouted faster than others. Okay. Oh yeah, I also have this tray underneath because I was going to put some on my front patio, that was the outside, and some on a table in my kitchen, that was inside. And I wanted to make sure that the surface they were touching stayed the same anyway. Okay. Oh, before I move on, you do notice the differences, don't you? So all those other things are the same, the controlled variables, but yes, the difference is there are sprouts here and there are no sprouts here. It turns out that my results are red tomatoes inside sprout faster than red tomatoes outside. Now, I will let these keep growing, and maybe the outside ones will sprout, but the ones that were inside sprouted after just 3 days, not very long. Okay, I'm going to give these ones some more time. To recap the things that were the same, so I can be pretty sure that being inside or outside is what caused the difference in time, is that I controlled all these other things. I controlled the kind of seeds, they were the same, the kind of pot, the kind of soil, the amount of water, and the kind of surface. So when I found my results, I felt pretty good about why they happened. All right, here's another one. My second experiment is to sprout some of one kind and some of another kind, but in the same sponge and container. This is a really fun one to do inside if you don't have a yard or it's just too crazy hot to try planting outside right now. So this is my setup. I cut a sponge in half. I put some of one kind of seed here and some of another kind of seed here. My seeds are radishes and marigolds. Some of you helped collect these marigold seeds from the school garden last year. Some of you planted some at school this spring, and I'll save the rest to plant next year with you guys. So these are the two kinds of seeds. And because that's what I changed on purpose, I have a new independent variable, kind of seed. Here it is marigold versus radish. I still want to know what makes seeds sprout faster. So my sprouting time is what I will observe as a result. That is my dependent variable. If you have a different question, you can choose a different dependent variable. And for controlled variables, what is the same? Yeah, so the same sponge, the same container, and they do have the same amount of water. Even if I were to accidentally pour more water over here than over here, I don't know if you can tell, it's all wet in the bottom and both sponges would just soak it up. So they end up getting the same amount of water. They were also in the same location. I happened to put these in my kitchen next to the tomato seeds that were inside. So those are all controlled variables, but this time the list is different. Instead of changing the location, they're in the same location. Okay. And what I changed was the kind of seeds, so that's not on here. controlled variables. And the fun part too is what are the results? I'm going to hold this up a little closer. The radish seeds sprouted after only 2 days, super fast. The marigold seeds still have not sprouted. And this was a week ago that I set it up. They might still sprout, but after 7 days, they have not sprouted. The radish seeds sprouted after only 2 days. So to answer my research question, having radish seeds instead of marigold seeds can help seeds sprout faster. There are lots more ways you could answer the question. You could try more kinds of seeds. You could try more different locations. You could try different kinds of materials that you plant them in, and you might get a new answer to the question. You could also try to repeat this exactly as I've done it and see if you get the same results I did. A great thing about doing a scientific experiment is that somebody else can check it for you. And the more data you get, the more sure you can be of your results. Of course, it still feels good to have some dirt and some water and some seeds. I hope you have fun setting up an experiment, and I look forward to hearing your results or even your unique questions that come up from surprises that you observe. Have a good week, Miles Mustangs. I'll see you later.